caught the eye of many when President Trump revealed that he'd accepted this aircraft as a gift from the Qatari royal family. Here is what the president had to say in his defense.
The plane that you're on right now is almost 40 years old. It's much smaller. It's much less impressive as it is. Some people say, oh, you shouldn't accept gifts for the country. My attitude is, why wouldn't I accept the gift?
Mick, do you have a problem with the president accepting this gift, or do you think it's a bit of a storm in a teacup?
Look, I can see both sides of it. On one hand, he's absolutely right. Boeing, from whom we purchased 2 aircraft in 2018, is now 7 years into the process of turning those 2 747s into the next Air Force One, and they tell us they're at least another 5 years away. That's unacceptable. The plane that you're looking at right now, the plane that the president's flying on, is almost 40 years old. We can't get to Australia nonstop on Air Force One. We have to stop. When we went to we went to Vietnam in 2019. We had to stop twice to get there. That's not safe. I get all of that. I also get it when they say, look, I heard a senator today say the Statue of Liberty was a gift from a foreign government. We took that, didn't we? I see all that on one side of the argument. On the other side of the argument, this looks horrible. It really, really does. We don't need a gift from a foreign nation. We don't have to have people buying us airplanes. We're the richest nation in the world. But just as importantly, Caroline, I don't see this plane ever being used as Air Force One. You can't take a Qantas 747, paint it blue, and call it Air Force One. That's not what Air Force One is. It's the highest level of technology, avionics, including a lot of defense things that I don't even know about on the airplane. That's what Air Force One is. And I do not see this Qatari 747 ever being able to meet those requirements, or at least not in the rest of Donald Trump's second term.
Well, I'm going to talk a lot more about it later in the show, Mick, but I mean, not only all of the issues you've raised, but also I would say the national security concerns that might be involved in this. I mean, we're talking about a state that sponsors terrorism, that has backed and provided harbour for the instigators of the October 7 attack in Israel. What faith could the American people have that this plane would even be safe to travel in?
There's even more to it than that. Just here in the last 24 hours in this country, we're reading stories now about how we have discovered Chinese kill switches in many of the electric transformers that are in our solar panels here in the United States of America. And you have to assume they're in there for some reason, to help the Chinese government in the event of conflict with the United States. You can't trust foreign nations to do this level of stuff. I like the Qataris. I've had a good relationship with them. I understand the history. I get that. That's real. I'm not minimizing that in any fashion, but I don't trust them to build Air Force One for us. We are going to build Air Force One. And that's why I say I think it would take longer to figure out if this plane is actually free of listening devices or other types of technological surveillance than it would be to build a plane from scratch.
Very true. Look, amidst all of this and all the headlines about this trip to the Middle East, I think it's been lost a bit in the wash that earlier this week, the US and China were able to agree on a temporary pause to their trade war. The US Treasury Secretary met with Chinese officials in Geneva and both agreed on a 90-day pause and to drop their tariffs against each other by 115%. Mick, is this deal a success for the Trump administration?
Well, not yet. I take a lot of questions here, Caroline, as to whether or not, is this sort of a retreat by the Trump administration? Did they really need to do this? Did they need to put us through the threat of 135 or 45% tariffs? And I think the answer is yes. I think what you've seen now is a classic Trump negotiating style. He made a very bold first move in order to establish his credibility, and now he's talking. So, look, I know other people would have done it differently. I might have done it differently, but this is how the gentleman operates. And now the important part is that we are talking to the Chinese, and hopefully those talks will bear fruit. But to your point, no, I think it's too early to probably say if this is a success. Success will be what the ultimate deal is, and we're a long way from that right now.
It's obviously a 90-day pause. What do you think will happen when that 90 days comes to an end?
Yeah, my guess is they'll try and show some progress along the lines of the UK-US deal. That's not a final deal. That's not a final agreement. It's sort of a memorandum of understanding, a term sheet, a preliminary understanding. I think that's probably what you'll see between us and the Chinese, at least on some topics in the first 90 days. And then that will be used correctly so, as the justification for continuing the pause as discussions go on. Now, if discussions completely fall apart or China does something like put kill switches in our solar panels, then don't be surprised if Donald Trump cuts that 90-day pause short.
A terrifying story, those kill switches, probably stuff like that happening right here in Australia as well. Mick Mulvaney, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.